Why you must listen. Alex, a bright young man, harbored a secret frustration, a common ailment among language learners. He could effortlessly comprehend English, absorbing complex articles and understanding movie dialogues without a hitch. Yet, when prompted to speak, his mind would stubbornly go blank, words elusive, trapped somewhere between thought and articulation. This pervasive silence was a constant, gnawing torment for him. He understood why English was crucial, the lingua franca of the globalized world, a gateway to immense opportunities and broader perspectives. He knew its grammar rules, its vast vocabulary, and even its idiomatic expressions. His reading comprehension scores were always exceptional, consistently placing him among the top students in his language classes, a testament to his diligent study habits and innate linguistic grasp. However, this deep understanding provided no solace for his inability to speak. The disconnect between his internal knowledge and his external expression was a source of immense personal embarrassment and professional limitation. He often found himself nodding along silently in conversations, feigning comprehension, while a cascade of jumbled thoughts clamored for release within his mind, utterly frustrating. He yearned to join discussions confidently, to articulate his opinions clearly, and to share his unique insights without hesitation. The simple act of ordering coffee or asking for directions would send waves of anxiety through him, turning what should be a straightforward interaction into a daunting mental ordeal. He desperately sought a breakthrough, a genuine solution to his persistent problem. Many advised him, just speak more. But how do you speak when the words won't come? He felt like an actor who knew all his lines perfectly but suffered from stage fright so severe he couldn't utter a single sound on cue. This paradoxical situation fueled his frustration, making him question his own abilities despite clear evidence of his understanding. He tried various methods, from attending conversation clubs where he mostly listened, to repeating phrases after online audio lessons without truly internalizing them. Each attempt felt like hitting a wall, a temporary surge of hope quickly replaced by the familiar crushing weight of failure. He needed a different approach, a more personal and integrated strategy. One evening, while browsing an old language learning forum, he stumbled upon an unconventional yet intriguing piece of advice: how to talk at home to yourself. The concept seemed peculiar, almost silly, but its simplicity resonated with his current despair. What did he have to lose by giving this private practice a sincere try? The article emphasized that fluent speakers don't just translate, they think directly in the language. It suggested a crucial step, integrating English into his internal monologue. How to think and speak became his new mantra, a profound shift in perspective from mere memorization to genuine cognitive engagement, a challenging but necessary journey. The first step was to observe his surroundings and describe them silently in English. Walking through his living room, he'd mentally label objects: this is a brown sofa, a soft cushion, a wooden coffee table. It felt awkward initially, a clumsy internal monologue, but he persisted, understanding the value of this nascent mental exercise. Then came the challenge of voicing these thoughts aloud, even if only in whispers. The lamp is on, casting a warm glow. The window shows the night sky. He started small, articulating simple observations, slowly giving his internal English thoughts an external, audible form, a vital bridge between his mind and mouth. He designated specific times for this English talking practice at home. Early mornings, while making coffee, and late evenings, before bed, became sacred moments for his linguistic self-conversations. These private sessions allowed him to experiment freely without the pressure of judgment, fostering a safe space for growth and verbal exploration. The forum also suggested another powerful technique: talk in English just 1 page per day. This wasn't just about reading, it was about engaging with the text actively. He chose a non-fiction book he enjoyed, something familiar yet stimulating, to begin this daily ritual, a cornerstone of his renewed learning strategy. His routine was simple yet profound. He would read a single page, then, without looking at the text, he would recount its main ideas aloud in English, as if explaining it to an imaginary friend. This forced him to process the information and rephrase it using his own vocabulary, a powerful synthesis exercise. If he stumbled upon an unfamiliar word or phrase, he'd look it up, understand its context, and then immediately try to incorporate it into his spoken recap. This active learning approach cemented new vocabulary in his mind, making it readily available for future use in spontaneous conversation, a true linguistic investment. The initial days were tough, marked by stutters, pauses, and frequent trips to the dictionary. His self-talk sounded clumsy, his explanations rudimentary. But he reminded himself that improvement wasn't about perfection from day one, it was about consistent effort, about showing up daily and embracing the awkwardness of learning. He recorded himself occasionally, playing back his monologues to identify areas for improvement. Listening to his own voice, hearing his intonation and rhythm, helped him become more aware of his speech patterns. It was uncomfortable at first, but invaluable for honing his pronunciation and flow, a crucial feedback loop. He began to connect why you must read English with how to improve your fluency. Reading wasn't just for comprehension anymore, it was a wellspring of natural language patterns, sentence structures, and rich vocabulary that he could then immediately practice speaking. It provided the input for his verbal output. He consciously started listening more actively to English podcasts and interviews, not just for content, but for the way native speakers constructed sentences, used fillers, and transitioned between ideas. He would then try to mimic their patterns in his self-talk, internalizing natural rhythm and cadence effectively. The concept of "I understand English but I can't speak well" slowly began to fade from his self-description. He was no longer just a passive recipient of information, he was an active producer, bridging the gap between his receptive and productive language skills through relentless, focused practice. His internal monologue gradually shifted from his native language to English. He started narrating his daily activities in his mind, planning his day, and even debating small decisions entirely in English. This continuous mental immersion fortified his neural pathways for English thinking and speaking. The 1 page per day rule seemed deceptively simple, yet its cumulative effect was profound. Each page was a mini-lecture, a topic for discussion, a source of new words, and an opportunity for active recall and verbalization. It transformed passive reading into dynamic speaking practice daily. He began to notice subtle shifts. When someone spoke to him in English, his mind didn't freeze as often. He could access vocabulary more readily, and sentence structures started forming more organically, a testament to the new connections his brain was forging consistently. His confidence, once fragile, slowly began to solidify. The fear of making mistakes diminished because he was already accustomed to stumbling and correcting himself in his private practice sessions. Errors became learning opportunities, not reasons for self-censure, a crucial psychological shift. He realized that why you must listen wasn't just about understanding, it was about internalizing the music of the language, its rhythm, its stress patterns, and its natural flow. Mimicking these elements in his self-talk helped his spoken English sound more natural and less robotic over time. He started narrating his cooking process aloud, describing each ingredient and step in English. First, I chop the onions finely. Then, I heat the olive oil in a pan. This mundane activity became a rich opportunity for practical, functional English speaking practice, directly applicable to real-life situations. Even during his commute, instead of listening to music, he would mentally describe the scenery passing by. The bus is crowded. There's a tall building with many windows. This constant engagement kept his English brain active and agile, reinforcing patterns throughout his day. He discovered the joy of storytelling in English to himself. He would retell events from his day, describe his dreams, or even invent short narratives, pushing his vocabulary and grammar usage in imaginative ways. This creative outlet made practice enjoyable, not just a chore. The consistency of talk in English, just one page per day, became his anchor. Some days were better than others, but he never skipped a day, understanding that even a brief, imperfect session was infinitely more valuable than no session at all, slowly building momentum. His improvements weren't always linear, but the overall trend was undeniably upwards. Small victories, like successfully recounting a complex idea to himself without major pauses, fueled his motivation to continue, pushing him past moments of doubt and perceived plateaus. He started incorporating emotion into his self-talk. If he felt happy, he'd try to express that joy in English, using appropriate adjectives and exclamations. This helped him connect English not just to facts, but to feelings, making his language more expressive and authentic. The advice, how to talk in English, truly transformed for him. It wasn't about finding external partners initially, it was about becoming his own first and most patient practice partner. This internal foundation proved indispensable for later external communication confidently. He realized that the journey to fluency was less about grand, dramatic leaps and more about consistent, tiny steps taken daily. Each whispered word, each recounted page, each mental narration, added up, brick by brick, constructing a robust linguistic edifice within him. His internal vocabulary bank grew exponentially. Words he once only recognized passively now actively came to mind during his self-conversations, solidifying their place in his active vocabulary. This transformation from passive to active was a game-changer for his fluency progress. He began to articulate complex ideas to himself, forming arguments, weighing pros and cons, and even attempting to solve hypothetical problems entirely in English. This advanced mental exercise sharpened his critical thinking skills while simultaneously honing his language proficiency with great effectiveness. The how to think and speak philosophy had indeed unlocked something profound. It was no longer a conscious effort to translate thoughts simply formed in English, flowing directly from concept to verbalization without the arduous intermediate step of native language translation. He revisited Old English texts he had read previously, and this time, he wasn't just understanding, he was speaking about them, analyzing them, and debating their points aloud to himself. This deepened his comprehension and fortified his ability to discuss nuanced topics fluently. His family, initially perplexed by his occasional English mumbles, soon noticed a significant change. Alex seemed more confident, his shoulders less slumped, his eyes brighter. He was slowly but surely shedding the burden of his linguistic inhibition, becoming more vibrant. One day, during a video call with an international client, something clicked. Instead of fumbling for words, Alex found himself responding naturally, engaging in a fluid back-and-forth exchange without a hint of the anxiety that used to paralyze him completely, a true milestone achieved. The words flowed, not perfectly, but intelligibly and confidently. He expressed complex ideas, answered questions, and even injected a touch of humor, all without the mental struggle that had plagued him for so long. It was an exhilarating, liberating experience for Alex finally. He reflected on his journey. The initial frustration of "I understand English but I can't speak well" had been a powerful catalyst. It drove him to seek solutions, to experiment with unconventional methods, and ultimately, to redefine his approach to language learning successfully. He realized that the key had not been about finding the perfect external speaking partner, but about cultivating his own internal English environment. His home, once a place of silent understanding, had become a vibrant laboratory for active linguistic creation constantly. The simple act of how to talk at home to yourself had been revolutionary. It removed the performance anxiety, allowing him to fail safely and learn from his mistakes in a supportive, non-judgmental space, fostering immense growth organically and effectively. And Talk in English just 1 page per day had provided the consistent structure and input necessary for sustainable progress. It was a manageable daily task that yielded exponential returns, building his vocabulary and sentence fluency reliably over time. He now understood why you must read English in a holistic sense. Reading wasn't just passive intake. It was active fuel for his speaking engine, providing the raw material for his thoughts and conversations, making the entire language learning process interconnected successfully. His fluency wasn't about speaking flawlessly like a native speaker overnight, it was about communicating effectively, confidently, and naturally, expressing his authentic self in English without the crushing burden of inhibition. A truly freeing linguistic journey. Alex now eagerly sought out opportunities to speak, no longer shying away from English conversations. He joined online groups, participated actively in webinars, and even started mentoring other struggling learners, sharing his hard-won insights and encouraging them sincerely. He often told them, "Don't wait for the perfect moment or the perfect partner. Start speaking now, even if it's just to yourself. Your mirror, your kitchen, your commute, these are your first classrooms for true fluency, truly invaluable resources." He emphasized the importance of consistent English talking practice and the power of how to think and speak as foundational pillars. These internal practices, he asserted, lay the groundwork for seamless external communication, making conversations flow effortlessly later. He also stressed why you must listen attentively, not just passively. Understanding the nuances of intonation, pauses, and natural speech rhythms is crucial for sounding authentic and engaging, making your spoken English much more compelling and natural for others. The 1 page per day method was his secret weapon for continuous vocabulary acquisition and grammatical reinforcement. It kept his language active and fresh, ensuring he was constantly learning new ways to express himself effectively, making consistent progress. Alex's journey demonstrated that fluency isn't a mystical gift but a product of deliberate, consistent practice. The transformation from understanding to speaking is a bridge built through daily effort, patience, and a willingness to embrace the learning process wholeheartedly and openly. For anyone struggling with the common lament, "I understand English but I can't speak well," Alex's story offers a beacon of hope and a clear, actionable roadmap. The power to speak fluently lies within you, waiting to be unleashed through simple yet effective daily habits. It begins with a decision to commit, a commitment to daily self-talk, to thinking in English, and to actively engaging with what you read and hear. This personal dedication transforms passive knowledge into dynamic, usable language, paving the way to true spoken mastery. So, if you aspire to speak English with confidence and ease, remember Alex's journey. Embrace the power of talking to yourself, of thinking in English, and of consuming just 1 page per day with active, verbal engagement. Your voice is waiting to be heard by you and others. Start today. Don't let your understanding be a cage, let it be the foundation for your confident, articulate voice. Unlock your English voice, 1 word, 1 sentence, 1 page, 1 conversation at a time, transforming your linguistic dreams into vibrant reality.